couple last framing details before trusses show up and we start working on those, and that is this garage door. So I'm going to show you guys how we do our door headers. Right here behind me, you will see the other garage door header complete. And obviously this is a structural part of the build because we've got to support the weight of a truss. And what we're going to be doing is using 2x12 material. Typically in residential framing, you'll see 2x laminated together, sitting on top of jack studs or cripples, whatever. This is a little bit different because we don't necessarily have that. So we do all of our weight bearing on those 2x12s that are laminated to the face of the columns. And then there is going to be blocking that'll go the length of this column, front and back, that will be supporting the header and secured with these large 20-penny ring shank nails. Very strong, not going anywhere. Let's go ahead and get into this. Anytime you're doing any framing like this, you want to crown your board. That is crown up. You want your crown up so that when the weight is settled onto it, it'll somewhat bring the crown down, making it even more level. If you go the other way, you don't want something to sag. I've got these posts marked right where my header is going to go. I'm just going to set myself a little nail just so they don't slide down on me. I already know this is a 12-footer. I got a 10-foot door opening, so I can waste about a foot on each side of this. I don't like to nail too close to the edge. You get more splitting. Make a square line on the edges, up the face, on this face here. And the reason I do that is because I'm using that to help make sure that my frame is square as I'm nailing it off. Make sure it doesn't bounce on me. Then we're going to go ahead and put a nail at the top, making sure that this line is also right where it should be, which it's not. In order to determine this distance, I could pull out a tape measure, check it, or mark the 2x12, but what I like to do, we've got to put a spacer board here that is the thickness of the post, and it's going to go between the outside 2x12 and the inside 2x12, and that's going to give us the exact dimension. And instead of figuring out what that is, I'm just going to cut the board to 10 foot exactly, and it's going to fit right in here, and it will give me exactly where this post needs to be. I'm just flushing it up here on the face. So now you can see right here where that daylight's coming through, that's the gap. That means that this post is going to end up going tight to it, and I'll get my exact opening. What I'm going to also do is take my square and I'm going to square this line around. And what this is going to help me do, make sure that this column is installed square to my header. That is the first 2x12. And then what I've got to do is install a stubby column. A stubby column is what is going to go up and hold and support and secure the truss that's going to be sitting on this header. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I've got a center notch opened up just like our columns when I'm making the columns. And this right here is what our truss is going to set on. And we'll have these two ears on either side that we'll be able to fasten that truss to. And this is going to get mounted right inside of this header. So that's my stubby column that I'm going to mount right here inside of my header. You want to make sure this is square. So now I'm going to be putting a second header on top. So this is a single 2x12. I'm going to do a second 2x12, and we like this better than laminating 2x12s together because I personally don't have the engineering to back it up, but I think that anytime you double or you extend the height of a header, it becomes stronger. And I find that just through experience, by double stacking with this method, the way they're secured, it becomes a lot stiffer and stronger than if we were to put two 2x12s together and put it in the same header. It makes for a really strong header this way. And there'll be a third 2x12 on the inside as well. So I'm just gonna take this block and I'm gonna screw it right on the underside. And this will help bring these into plane. You know, wood naturally likes to move around, so this helps as well, just to hold everything where it should be. Not completely necessary, but one of those things that it doesn't take that much to do it, so if it makes it that much better, why not? Okay. I could get the nail gun out. I don't think it would save me much time by the time I got the compressor fired up. This is about the only framing that I need to do. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 20 penny galvanized ring shanks plus a full blocked out column. These are not going to sag. They're not going to go anywhere. It's a nice strong connection. So now that we've got those nails all in, time to go ahead and cut these ears off and hang this header. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I just gotta frame these up and get ready for that end truss and purlins, huh? So I'm just using those screws to tack these in, and then I'm gonna come back behind them, pop some 20 penny nails. Now, over here is where I might have to do a little bit of work, but this is actually looking really good. I'm maybe just off a hair here. So here I'm just sticking out a hair. So I just put a screw in here and I can just manipulate this board real easily to get it nice and flushed up. So now that it's getting time to be putting up our trusses, Greg has started working on making up our purlins. And when we say that, what he's doing is he's taking a 2x4 18-footer and he's marking out where the trusses will be on the purlins and pre-drilling a hole so that we can put our 60 penny nails in without splitting our lumber, but also without requiring a ton of effort on our part. Greg will make up each bay, basically a 16-foot section, put it in a pile. That way when we go install them, we can just put one bay at a time into the lift, and it's super efficient, works out really well. So now that our trusses were dropped off, they roll off of the trailer, and it's cool. It's always enjoyable to have them roll off the trailer, but what happens is, as you can see, the tail down at the bottom hits the ground, and then the weight will continue to push the whole pile, and it kind of gets all off. So what we've got to do now is get everything lined back up, get all these trusses as straight as possible to each other so that we can efficiently and effectively mark all of the top chord truss locations for where our purlins are going to be mounted. It's a lot easier to do it here on the ground than once they're installed. I've got the sledgehammer, that will come in handy, and I'll show you a little trick also that I learned in order to help line up your trusses a little bit quicker. So you can see here how off this is. This does not help us. We need this to be straight, and then I will go in and out. So what I'm going to do to take one of these boards. I'm only gonna straighten out the first 7, and then it goes to my scissor cords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So now that I've got that like so, I take and use the power of leverage to straighten them out. So now that I've got them pretty darn straight, this is another thing I've learned over the years. When you start moving them and hitting them with the sledge, they can go back to sliding one way or the other. So what I'm gonna do is just take another board here. We're gonna screw it in place. Just the top and the bottom. And we're only gonna do one on the top. And I probably should only do one on the bottom too, but they look pretty close. And this will keep them in plane this way. Now I need to go ahead and get the ends as straight as possible. All right, go ahead.
Okay, which ones do you want to hit?
I guess 6.
I mean, 6 and 7 on that end were pretty close.
Yeah?
5 I thought needed to come back this way, and
4.
1 and 2 need.
4 needs to go for sure.
I thought 4 and 3 were pretty close to that.
I don't remember. I thought it was 1 and 4. Let's get that side straight because that matters, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
So let's start with 6, I guess.
Yeah, I like it, dude. Let's go here.
I just got to make sure that.
Yep. Tight.
Tight.
Okay,
yeah.
now just go ahead and put it long ways, and let's smash these top couple. You might want to go down. Yeah, because it's gonna bounce. All right, what do we got? Man, I don't mind that, my guy. Just using a little bit of leverage, get this pile somewhat straightened out. Now what I can do is mark where all the purlin locations go just on these first 7 trusses. These are all flat bottom trusses. Then once we get these pulled off, I'll mark out the other ones. I just find this a little bit easier instead of doing the whole pile at one time. All right, now with marking the purlins, this is a sheathed roof. We're gonna be putting 5/8 roof sheathing, and that is because we're gonna be installing a snap lock standing seam metal roof. We need solid shear strength on the roof deck, and it doesn't get fastened into purlins. It gets fastened like every 8 to 12 inches. It needs sheathing on the roof. What I need to do is consider where that sheathing is gonna lie or end, and then mark my purlins accordingly for 2 foot on center. Normally we do a 4.5 inch purlin off of the peak, but that always burns us, and we barely get material when we go to put our ridge cap on and try to put our clips in. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of doing 4.5, I'm gonna bring that up, and we're gonna get a 2 inch off of the peak for the first purlin. We want that top row of sheathing to go over the purlin and get closer to the peak. So this will actually be the mark that I go 2 foot center off of. Now I'm just gonna hook my tape measure, and I'll mark every 2 foot. For those of you that didn't know, your tape measure has that little slot on it. It's perfect for putting a nail and being able to measure when you have to pull. Now we got these top ones marked. We'll get these end trusses off, pull off the flat bottom, one thing at a time. All right, it's finally time to start putting these trusses up. It's only been a few days here. Of course, as soon as we go to put our trusses up, you can probably hear the breeze, but it's only a 48 foot wide. We've got the machinery to work out of. Let's go. I'm gonna drive that lift down to the corner. Nice, first truss, always the best. We will have a little bit of work to do to secure it. Always a good feeling. How come I'm always the one stuck in this piece of crap lift? Coming down, chains. We can move this quite a bit right now. You got to realize we're 26 feet up. There's nothing holding this peak. This is where the chains come into play. We're going to be installing a chain that's going to mount back to the skid loader. We are getting a heavy wind right at it. So we'll pull it back, keep some tension on it. But then once we get our first bay of trusses up, it'll give us something more to make some like crisscrosses with and really get it secured. But for now, yeah, there's really not a whole lot other than those bolts way down at the bottom holding it into the concrete, which is impressive in its own right, I think. All right, we realized that the raised bottom cord scissor trusses that we need next are on the bottom. So we got to move 6 trusses off the pile, then we can get to the raised scissor. I hope we have the capacity for this. I guess we'll see. Great, now we got to straighten these guys. Never easy. Got this first truss hanging. We got the telehandler with that jib boom. Oh, I wouldn't do this any other way. A lot of people say, why don't you just get a crane? Why? I control the telehandler. I don't have to pay for a crane to sit there if something goes wrong and they're waiting on us. The telehandler does everything I need it to do. We're gonna get these fastened. We'll temp off the first one because we can't let this telehandler go without maybe this truss moving in the wind. Get the second truss hung, and then we're gonna run our purlins. Let's get into it. Well, nice. It's always a great feeling when we get that first bay of trusses up. It went up pretty well, even though we have to climb around up there. It's a little bit unsafe. You know, the nice thing is about this method is the way that we're up there, we're always somewhat wrapped around something. Can't get my machinery in there. I've got harnesses, but wrapping harnesses around a 2x12 top cord, in my opinion, more unsafe than being aware of your situation and working slow, not out here trying to break any records. I realize it's gonna take us more time. So far the trusses are going pretty well. We've got 2 full bays up. We just got this intermediate truss up, temped off up at the top with a brace that holds it in place so we can remove the telehandler. I will only do this setting of trusses over the sidewall if I have no other options. It's more pain, so much more work. We would probably be done with these trusses if we could drive in the center and run our machines while we run purlins, but it is what it is. We're just gonna keep plugging away. What's up, Mark? It's gonna be some of the best content ever. So what you'll see right here is we laminated a 2x6, ripped down to the 5 3/8 that our columns are. So it's not a full 2x6, it's 5 3/8. And up there is where the heel of our truss is gonna sit on the side of this wall. So we've got everything up top done, and we're gonna start framing out the trusses on the garage now. Today is the start of day number 6 here on site. So the first 5 days, which is like the first work week, we were able to get up all the walls, the main residence section, the 48 by 64, those trusses on. I thought we were gonna finish the garage, but had some things come up, took up some time during the day, where I think just a couple hours this morning, we will wrap up those trusses, and we're gonna start preparing overhangs, ready to put roof sheathing on. So that is the goal for the rest of this week. So a lot of work ahead of us. That's a truss that defines where the roof line of the garage is going to be attached to the house. I could have just snapped some lines, cut some 2x6 or 2x8 material, ran it up that roof line, and then attached my purlins to that. But I thought by utilizing a truss from the manufacturer, it would be exactly the same as all my other trusses, which means it would be consistent. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. Nothing ever is. So if I go to try to make a perfect, 412 pitch roof, and then these trusses that were made in a factory in a jig, let's say it was off just ever so slightly, my roof line and these trusses would be different. So by using the truss from the truss manufacturer, where it was all made in the same jig, at least I'm consistent. In my eyes, that's probably worth the cost of this truss, because it is not cheap. I would have been a lot better off just using some 2x material. I just didn't think it was the best case in this instance. That was a pretty good one. That was a good one. Yeah. You know what's crazy is this is 16 foot longer in the house than my parents' house. So I just went around the job site and I dropped 2 chains on every wall. And now what I'm gonna do is take my plate level, max it out to 12 feet, and I'm gonna plumb up all the walls and secure them with the chains. I've done a video where I've showed this exact process in pretty good detail, but I'll go ahead and we'll set this end wall here with the Stabila plate level, and I'll show you how easy it is. Okay, this one says I could go this way just a little bit, maybe 1/4 inch in the 12 foot. Yes, exact same. So where it stands right now, I need to bring this whole wall to the west, which is your guys' right. I want to pull this wall my way, so that means I do want to put some pretty good tension on this chain. We don't need to go crazy. I don't think that did anything. Nice. All right, that is, believe it or not, pretty dang good. One of the things that people are always commenting about is, why do you use a snap binder instead of like a ratchet binder? A ratchet binder would be way more adjustable, and that's true. However, when you're dealing with long chain, as you're ratcheting that binder, the chain just starts turning and it becomes more of a pain. It's easier to go 1 link at a time. In a building like this, those links equate to just about the appropriate amount of change every time. And if it's in between, too tight or too loose and we don't have like a link in the middle, then we go ahead with the lesser of the two links on tension wise and then shove a board and just create a little bit more tension, and that works really well, super quick, and these binders are a little bit more manageable than a ratchet binder. I love it. That is great. Now that wall is locked down. It's not going anywhere. When we get our sheathing done on the exterior, because this is gonna get a full 1/2 inch LP weatherlogic structural sheathing on the entire perimeter, then we can pull those chains off. That is our temporary bracing. We don't need any lumber. We don't have to worry about boards breaking in extreme winds. Those chains are gonna do the job, hold it where we want it, keep it plumb, and when we got our sheathing on, we take them off.